from Wingate University and WUTV. This is Wingate Today.
Coming up, Winter Games in Wingate. Highlights of the winter of 2014. Tackling the issue of race and sports in America. And health crisis. Patients not taking their medications. But first, 100% on the big test. Hello and welcome to Wingate Today. I'm Jeff Atkinson. In the healthcare profession, all the disciplines require students to take national certifying board exams to ensure they demonstrate the level of knowledge necessary to enter their profession. 31 students who just completed the Physician Assistant Studies program at Wingate, the entire PA class of 2013, all passed their National Certifying Board exam, called PANCE, on the first try. The PANCE includes 300 questions and must be taken before a PA can be licensed for the first time upon graduation from an accredited program. The PA program is taught in the Levine College of Health Sciences. The program's accrediting organization looks at percentage of students who pass the exam on the first attempt. This year's class accomplished 100% the first time that's happened at Wingate. The national pass rate for first-time test takers is 94%. Wingate entered another chapter in the health sciences in January, offering a new doctorate-level degree, the Doctor of Physical Therapy. And the 42 students in the first class, called a cohort, were recognized during a professional commencement ceremony held in the Bat Center in mid-January. Also known as a white coat ceremony, this event marks the official start of the students' professional careers. Kevin Bruley, founding director of the Doctor of Physical Therapy program, called it a day of transformation.
Each of you is well on your way to the rights and privileges afforded a professional. And with those rights and privileges also comes substantial responsibility.
Keynote speaker was Jody Frost of the American Physical Therapy Association. She told the DPT students they should expect to work hard.
During the next 3 years at Wingate, you will learn more than you ever thought imaginable. In fact, if you stack all the text, publications, and resources that you're expected to read, they will go from floor to ceiling.
But she added the work will be worth it. And yes, the students receive their white coats at the end of the commencement. Students in this class will graduate in December 2016. Not taking medicines as prescribed is a serious problem in America today. Experts say finding remedies to help patients stick with their treatments as directed would not only go a long way toward better health, but would help control healthcare costs. Kristen Johnson's been looking into this. There's a program that Wingate University's School of Pharmacy is involved in. Tell us about this, Kristen. Are we having any luck in finding any remedies?
Jeff, it's a nationwide event called the Medication Adherence Challenge, also known as Script Your Future. Today, 45% of Americans have more than one chronic condition that requires medication, yet only 1/3 are taking their medications as prescribed. The consequences are devastating, including ongoing health problems and higher use of costly acute care, such as hospitalizations and surgeries. Importantly, many of these consequences are avoidable if medicines are taken as prescribed. I got together with 2 students from Wingate School of Pharmacy to talk about Script Your Future Challenge and also spoke with Dr. Daniel Lane, a Wingate professor at the School of Pharmacy. I asked him first about the psychology behind why some people don't take their medications properly.
People may be experiencing bad effects from it, side effects, or they may not be able to afford the medication, or they may obviously sometimes forget to bring the medication with them. And so those are more intentional things where people actually intentionally, based on maybe how they're feeling or how they perceive that they're receiving the benefit from the drug, they decide not to take the medication. Unintentional, that's a little bit more difficult because that's when you have the real situation where people honestly completely forget, don't understand how to take the medication, don't necessarily think that they are receiving a benefit from it.
For both the students I talked to, being a part of this campaign challenge is personal. Sarah Paymont tells me she had family members who were either non-adherent or took medications improperly, and she doesn't want to see other families go through this. Kyle Hansen sees it as his duty as a pharmacist to educate people, being he says that pharmacists are often the most accessible healthcare professionals for individuals.
What we did last year was we actually went out to a Checkers game and we talked to people before the game and after the game about medication adherence. We went to the YMCA for a health fair. We went to East Union Middle School for a health fair. We went on the radio and we talked about medication adherence, and so we really put the initial push out there. And this year we're repeating a lot of that.
One of the great things about Script Your Future is they provide each school pharmacy with hundreds of these pocket cards. And what they are is they're about the size of a credit card, and it's a trifold piece of paper. And on it, it has basically, it's a grid, and you can put what medications you're taking, and there's a little box for why are you taking them, when do you take them, is it the morning, is it the evening, is it at bedtime?
The challenge is through the whole month of February. There are a lot of tools you can check out on the Script Your Future website. It's just scriptyourfuture.org. And Jeff, you can even print off those trifold cards that Kyle mentioned.
Thanks, Kristen. And you can see the full interviews and learn more on the subject in this month's episode of Health Matters, which Kristen hosts. The show airs here on WUTV at 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. It's been a wild winter. Wingate University, which rarely cancels classes, has had to cancel school 3 times in 2 weeks. Reporter Brian Stevenson is out in the elements covering this historic winter storm. Brian?
Jeff, you know that Wingate University doesn't cancel classes very often, but as pretty as this snow is to look at, the roads around Wingate and Union County were very dangerous, and the snow and ice caused a lot of problems. For 3 straight days, the snow came down hard. More snow than the campus or surrounding area had seen in more than a decade. Even Mr. Belk was snow covered. Wingate canceled classes on Wednesday, February 12th and Thursday, February 13th, and for good reason. Highway 74 and every other road around the county was a mess.
I should have stayed at home is what I should have done.
Yeah?
But nope, I went to work anyway.
If you know the hilltop area of 74, then you know this is always a bad spot. The highway was a parking lot for hours. The biggest problem? The big rigs, who couldn't make it up the hill. The slick conditions took their toll on smaller vehicles as well. Back on campus, the day off was a nice break for senior Andy Worthington of Morehead City.
I love it. Don't see snow much where I'm from, and just going to enjoy it, hopefully get some sledding in or something.
Judging by the pictures posted online, he and his friends got in plenty of sledding fun. Social media was a storm within the storm for this snow event. Many around campus shared their snow experiences with the hashtag WUSnow. At DSnyder985 shared his view from the Student Center porch. There were many pictures from around the campus. Others posted notes about pending snowball fights. The snowball fight theme seemed to be trending, whether online or standing outside of one of the only places open during the storm, the cafeteria.
Snowball fight! Let's get it!
No, I'm in the bed, hot cocoa. I don't know about them.
Snow angels. Snowball fights. My car got stuck.
Everyone seemed to cope well with the storm. The only issues on campus seemed to be a partial loss of power, and the Duke Energy crew had that taken care of in about an hour.
I think everybody's enjoying it because no one really expected it to do this much.
So just how much did it snow? According to the National Weather Service, officially 6 inches. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would argue that more snow fell depending on where you were, but there was no debating just how beautiful the Wingate campus looked under this once-in-a-decade snowfall. So in the end, a couple of extra days off for students, but the good news here, none of the major power outages that had been predicted or serious injuries in Wingate or the surrounding areas. Just a beautiful snowfall to look at. For Wingate Today, I'm Brian Stevenson. Jeff, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Brian. And this is what it looked like during the first storm, more of an ice event on January 29th. Video from WSOC TV's Chopper 9 of cars along one Union County road slipping and sliding on the ice. A couple of good Samaritans could be seen helping other drivers navigate on Newtown Road, west of Monroe, near Weddington and Waxhaw. A faculty member just returned from the Big Apple. Jesse Wright Martin, professor of voice and director of opera, performed along with colleagues from 2 other universities at New York's famed Carnegie Hall in mid-January. During the 90-minute concert, the trio performed works of Australian composer Margaret Sutherland. Members of the Wingate family attended. The event coincided with 2 different alumni receptions held for alums who now live in the New York City area.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sylvia Hatchell.
She received a standing ovation when she was enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame last fall. Sylvia Hatchell, native of Gastonia, the head women's basketball coach at UNC Chapel Hill, and the second winningest head coach in NCAA women's basketball history. Last October, Hatchell was diagnosed with leukemia. It's in remission now. But to help honor her fight, the Wingate women's basketball team hosted a Be the Match marrow donor registry drive. Hatchell, seen here with head coach Ann Hancock and assistant coach Dustin Terrell. Hatchell didn't need a bone marrow donor, but her case highlighted a fact there is a severe need for potential donors. 135 people signed up to be part of the registry at the two-day event held in early February, and more than $800 collected. Head coach Ann Hancock told us it was a fitting way to honor her mentor and friend. On the subject of women's basketball, check this out. About 30 former players, some from as far back as the 1950s, attended the first ever Women's Basketball Alumni Day held in late January. There was a brunch in Cuddy Arena where the alums got to hear from current head coach Ann Hancock, and later players got to reminisce about their times at Wingate, tour campus, and attend the women's basketball game versus Brevard. Former soccer standout Luke Maholland has made it to the big leagues in January, signing a contract to play with Real Salt Lake. Maholland is the first Wingate soccer player to make it to a Major League Soccer team. The 25-year-old from England played here in the late 2000s. In 2009, he was named first-team All-American and South Atlantic Conference Player of the Year. The subject of race relations and the world of sports came front and center in a discussion on campus in February that involved a couple of big names. Ryan Brown, who covers Bulldog sports, went to the forum and joins us. So tell us about it, Ryan.
As part of February's Black History Month, Wingate hosted a race and sport forum at the Plyler Griffin Recital Hall in the Bat Center. Now, when you think about race and sports, the first national sports figure that comes to mind, Jeff, of course, Jackie Robinson. But as far as a Wingate sports figure, think of former basketball star Marshall Thaxton, one of Wingate's first African-American athletes. This 1970s snapshot of Wingate basketball player Marshall Thaxton captures a moment of history, a game changer. His position on the team alongside John Green helped break down the race barrier and solidify a new chapter in Wingate's playbook.
A lot of people felt like I had the character to, withstand some issues that I wouldn't encounter here. Not necessarily on campus, but in this community and around this area.
Thaxton, a Durham native, saw the move to Wingate as an opportunity to pursue personal life goals, to teach, to coach, travel, and work at a police department. He accomplished it all.
I enjoyed my time here for me it was a transition from being an athlete to being a little bit more serious being a student.
Sitting in front of a new group of students separated by generations, Thaxton says there is a sense of gratification in the groundwork he laid so someone else would have an easier path. Proof, you could say, is in this current Wingate basketball photo.
We still have a lot collectively to do. Don't quit, don't give up on it.
This generation here, it's up to them.
ESPN writer Ryan McGee joined Thaxton on stage to give his perspective on diversity in different arenas. He points to changes on the NASCAR track, a sport historically flagged for Southern white men, where 18 years ago he says there was little diversity in the garage or grandstands.
These teams have gotten very aggressive through a Wingate alum, actually, at Hendrick Motorsports, of going and trying to find good former college athletes. And as a result, you're starting to see diversity on pit road because they don't care what your background is as long as you can get over that wall and change 4 tires. And so it's changed dramatically, particularly in the last 5 or 6 years. Still a long way to go, but it's much better than it was.
And McGee hopes by understanding where we started, looking toward where we can go, listening to stories like Marshall Thaxton's, that there's no way others will not want to make it better too. Jeff, we've heard so many stories on the issue of race and sports, but for the many student athletes in the recital hall that night, I think it meant just as much to hear it more from one of their own. A guy like Marshall who was proud of what he meant to Wingate and its progress.
Powerful night. Thank you, Ryan. A follow-up now to a story Ryan covered last summer. Wingate's Special Olympics Field Day has received the NCAA Division II Award of Excellence for the South Atlantic Conference. The event, put on by the football team, gives Special Olympians the opportunity to see what it's like to be on a college football team, running through drills and playing on the gridiron. Last year's event marked the 10th year. Award of Excellence winners received $500 from the NCAA for the event in which they were recognized. Meanwhile, the Wingate University bookstore stacks up pretty well in a recent nationwide competition. Ben Richardson is covering that story. What's this about, Ben?
Did you know that the Wingate University bookstore made its first dollar on April 29, 1977? Now, almost 37 years later, their sales are nearly $1.2 million a year. The assistant director of the bookstore, Rachel McCullough, says it hasn't always been an easy sell for students.
The challenge that we have faced within the last 7 or 8 months is just changing their perception. So a lot of students thought, well, the bookstore's too expensive, or they're only carrying things I don't like.
Senior Taylor Rogers says this is no longer the case.
There's so many more things in here that are just student friendly, like the Tervis cups and stuff like that. People will pay money for stuff like that. You can't find those really anywhere else.
Another key factor that contributes to the recent success is the addition of social media. In fact, Wingate University's bookstore was just recognized as the 2014 Connect to One Facebook All-Star for engaging students through trivia, giveaways, and so on.
Like yesterday, they posted something as simple as an ice scraper because of the snow, and I thought that was great because people need stuff like that, and people see that, and people go to the bookstore and they get it.
And on President's Day, the bookstore created a fun game of trivia on Twitter that gave followers a chance to win some free Guy Harvey merchandise.
I think people enjoy coming here more and have a better view of the bookstore than they did when there was no social media, because they have more of an input, and we can directly see what they like and what they don't like and then cater to the students.
In a few short months, the bookstore will be taking on a new challenge, relocation to this spot being renovated on Main Street. While it's only a city block from the current location, it's a change, and change isn't always easy.
We are going to be more of a campus store, but also a community store, so we are going to carry things that I don't think a lot of bookstores around even have.
Sherry even brought out a list because it was so extensive.
We have everything from Guy Harvey to Rowdy Gentlemen. We've got Vineyard Vines coming in, Vera Bradley, Lily Pulitzer, Southern Tide, Over Under, Mud Pie, just to name a few.
It's clear the Wingate University bookstore is doing all the right things, from engaging students in social media to getting the apparel and merchandise that students are looking for, as well as engaging the community. This is what makes the Wingate University bookstore the best in the region. And back to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Ben. When we heard about this, it was one of those stories we had to cover. Chemistry professor Krista Wilson emailed us and said she was going to blow up a gummy bear on the academic quad. Dr. Wilson and Stacy Hutchison, coordinator of chemistry labs, brought their classes outside one morning, part of a chemistry demonstration, of course. They conducted the famous drop the Mentos in the Diet Coke bottle and watch what happens. And then came the main event. Wilson heated a glass vial using a small propane tank, and then once the liquid inside was warm, she dropped the gummy bear into the test tube, and voila, a gummy bear explosion.
We salute you, gummy bear.
Students, of course, enjoyed it, and it makes great video for a TV show. Coming up on Wingate today, she went looking for love on The Bachelorette and The Bachelor. Now, has she found it down the street with a Wingate alum? And it's a musical journey that'll take you to and through the heart of the South. Grits the Musical. We're talking about girls raised in the South with the show's writer, composer, and producer. That's next.
A boy, a girl, two fathers, and a magical wall between them. The Fantastics is the world's longest-running musical, and with good reason. It's the spirited tale of two young lovers who, with the help of a colorful cast of characters, end up discovering a more mature, more meaningful love. You won't want to miss this exciting new touring production when it comes through town.
Coming to the Bat Center Saturday, March 22nd. Tickets at batcenter.org or Carolina Tix.
She had a number of very public breakups. Now she's ready to try it again. 28-year-old Emily Maynard, former reality TV star and Charlotte's most famous bachelorette, recently got engaged to a man she met long before she ever stepped into the Bachelorette mansion. She's engaged to Tyler Johnson of Charlotte, 27 years old, a Wingate alum, and former linebacker on the football team. The two have been friends for a while, but didn't begin dating until a year ago. On ABC's Good Morning America, Maynard shared why she thinks this time it's going to work out.
You know, we were really just friends, and we got to know each other. We met at church, and, you know, I think that's why our relationship is so good now, is because we started out as friends.
Johnson is a management consultant in Charlotte. In 2007, as a senior linebacker, he led the Bulldogs with 97 tackles and finished second in the league in tackles per game. Johnson popped the question right after New Year's. The couple say they plan to get married soon. It's the story of 4 women, 4 generations, and 4 different views, and it's coming to a familiar stage right here. Kim Williams joins us now. Kim, what's cooking?
My overtime story is about grits. Not the ones that you eat, but the musical grits. Girls raised in the South.
She's a classy little lady with a heart as good as gold.
6 years ago, Grits, the musical, premiered at Wingate University. This month, the show returns to the Bat Center. Based on Southern stories in the book by Deborah Ford, Erica McGee wrote the script and songs for the musical.
These stories really spoke to me because I'm born in Savannah, Georgia, raised in Knoxville, Tennessee, went to the University of Tennessee, married a North Carolina man. So I have been in the South all of my life.
Erica pitched the idea of the musical to the author, who drove to Wingate from Alabama to watch Erica and 3 others perform snippets from the script. Deborah Ford loved seeing her book come to life.
A lot of the material, while is drawn from the book, is also from my personal experience, so my experience with the Grits ladies that have influenced me in my life.
The premiere followed later in 2008 at the Bat Center when Larry Coleman was the director. Larry told us in an interview that Erica is not only a talented vocalist and actress, but also an excellent composer. This production has a wide appeal from young to old. The musical returns in February with Jessica Marshall, a Wingate alum, in the cast.
Just a smart, talented gal. Our very first show that we did here at Wingate, premiering it, she was in the cast. And then just this past year, I was able to bring her back into the fold.
The show will be performed in Hannah Covington McGee Theater, named after Erica's late mother-in-law.
It's very special for me. My mother-in-law was a huge supporter of the arts. I wish she could have seen this because it so speaks to who she was, who her friends were. There are a lot of Grits ladies in this community.
This family-friendly show is set in a living room with a front porch feel. Stories and songs cover Sweet Tea, Dolly Parton, and The Last Meal. The 4 actresses involve the audience with games and trivia to make the entire performance fun and engaging.
The great thing I think about the play is that it's a continual ride. You know, you're not having to keep up with some sort of storyline. We're just here telling stories, being the characters that we are, and then singing songs about the stories.
Erica is president of McGee Productions, which produces this musical with a dozen performances annually throughout the South. It can be adapted to suit a 150-seat venue or an 1,100-seat venue.
It's a small production company, but we do big things.
After 5 seasons, the show has evolved creatively in the process. Erica is looking forward to seeing the audience's response to this new version of the show.
To be able to come back and do this here is just such a thrill, not only for me personally and artistically, but also for my family.
What if viewers missed the show, Kim?
They can watch it on TV. We're replaying Grits, the musical, here on Wingate University Television this month. Look for it at 9:30 p.m. on WU TV, Channel 22 and 97-3.
Kim Williams, thank you very much. Over the winter break, some Wingate students got to expand their horizons, participating in the university's study abroad program known as Winter National. They traveled to Brazil and Europe. The Brazil contingent rang in the new year with Wingate President Jerry McGee and his wife. The students studied Brazil's unique music styles and learned about its cultural life. A second group traveled to Milan and Paris, 2 fashion capitals of the world. They toured museums and viewed luxury product lines of French and Italian designers. The Brazil group brought Wingate University some major publicity.
A quantidade de visitantes foi o dobro.
In a report on Brazil's O Globo network, which is the 5th largest news network in the world, akin to CNN or the BBC of Brazil, they were doing a story on tourists visiting a museum in the imperial city of Petrópolis, north of Rio, when they happened to stumble onto some visitors from America, from Wingate, North Carolina. The professor who led the Brazil trip, Dr. John Blizzard, was interviewed in Portuguese. We have no idea what he was saying there, but it looks like he was doing a good job. The students got some airtime as well. They were also featured on the website of the #1 samba school in Rio de Janeiro, Mangueira, which means mango tree. The samba school wrote an article about Wingate visiting their facilities. The students learned to play several instruments and even performed a Beatles song to samba rhythms together. Well, you saw him a few minutes ago in the pictures we showed you of the Winter National program in Brazil. He's with us in the studio now. Wingate President Jerry McGee, how have you been?
Been doing quite well, thank you.
How was the trip?
We had a wonderful time. 2 things that I learned on that trip. One is that we have wonderful students. The 21 students that traveled with us were very respectful. They were on time. They did the things they were supposed to do. And the second thing I learned was that I'm probably better at floating around on a river cruise with a bunch of 60-year-olds in Europe than I am at traveling with 21-year-olds to Brazil.
I understand.
They go pretty hard, and it was a very exhaustive trip.
You keep a busy schedule. When you go out and tell people about Wingate University, what do you tell them?
Well, the story is so good. And, you know, I love to, now that I've been here so long, I love to go back. If I'm going to the Charlotte Rotary Club, I love to go back and look at what I told them 10 years ago. And now I can compare that with where we are today. And so primarily I try to tell them about how the school has grown, the entrepreneurial spirit that you see here, how we've been aggressive in adding new programs, how we've made some really hard decisions in recent years, which have made us a much stronger institution. And I always remind them how important they are to us, that they're referring students and maybe volunteering to do some work on campus, or maybe recommending people to be on our board of trustees. And the community at large is very important to us.
One of the programs that was added in January was the Doctor of Physical Therapy program, another doctorate level degree being offered. Has that exceeded your expectations?
You know, I think the quick answer to that is yes. I think the staff has just been outstanding. And how quickly we were able to recruit 42 students for the program, all highly qualified young people, makes us realize we made the right decision. And there's a great need in our community for more physical therapists as the baby boomers reach retirement age. And we're living longer, and we need more physical therapy services. But yes, it's been terrific so far.
These are 42 students. Where are they from?
Well, 35 are from North and South Carolina, which really fits into to our strategy. Our goal is to improve healthcare in North and South Carolina, and certainly in Piedmont and Western North Carolina. And having so many of those students from this area, I think is very helpful, because what we would like is for these 42 people to finish their degrees and stay in this region and improve healthcare here.
There are two campuses outside Wingate's main campus, a Ballantyne campus and a Hendersonville campus. Some people may not be aware of that. How are those other campuses operating?
Well, they're both at very exciting times. The Ballantyne move has been very strategic for us. We're very grateful for our friends in Matthew supporting our program there for so long. But we're in high quality teaching space now. We're right in the middle of 14,000 corporate executives who are working in the Ballantyne area. And the programs we're providing seem to be very well received there. And so we think there's potential for significant growth there. In Hendersonville, we're in an exciting place because the town of Hendersonville, Henderson County, Blue Ridge Community College, and Pardee Hospital are all joining with us. And we're going to be building a new building that will serve all of us in some way. And we will be the lead tenant. But that's going to allow us again to add additional programs in Hendersonville, and they have been very, very welcoming there.
I can see why you could say exciting times. Campus master plan, we've dealt with some of that on this program. Credo Higher Education was here for a number of weeks talking to stakeholders. Where are we in that process?
Well, it's been presented to the Board of Trustees, and they were very excited about it. Basically what it does, it allows us to do two things primarily. It allows us to look at the long-term physical needs of our campus. It helps us understand what properties we need to be buying in the future. It helps us design where the new housing should go, where new academic space should go, where new student life space should go for the next 15 or 20 years. But it also helps me get focused on my last couple of years as president, and look at the things that I need to concentrate on, and to work with our staff to make sure we get those things accomplished before a new administration comes on board. So it's been a very thorough process, and one we've enjoyed.
Last question. We have talked about the Secure the Promise. This was a $100 million campaign launched about 2 or 3 years ago. Yep. And more than half the money has been taken in. Yep. 87 million, is that right?
Yeah, that's been a real success story. I think it's kind of an endorsement of what we've done in the last decade or so. We began with an effort to raise $45 million. And then we blew by that so quickly, we decided to raise the campaign goal to $75 million. And now we've surpassed that, and so we decided that $100 million would be more reasonable for more challenging for us. So now we're in the mid to upper 80s, and the last 10 or 12 million will be a great professional challenge and will require all of our friends to really step up and help us. But it will push Wingate so far ahead of a lot of our competitors that it'll really have things set up very nicely for the new administration, which will begin in 2015.
So if anybody out there wants to write a check, you'll be happy to take it.
Yes, we still have room for a few.
That's where there is room. Jerry McGee, it's good to see you. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
15 months ago, Dr. McGee was a panelist on a public forum hosted by WFAE Radio, 90.7 FM, NPR in Charlotte. The topic, respect and disrespect. What's up in our society? The radio station singled out McGee in his annual report that it just released for the fiscal year. Of the event, McGee said, "We came into the room with different ideas, discussed them, and learned from one another. Anytime that happens, it's always good for our community." This last story has brought a lot of attention to the Wingate community. Yes, the dogs are back. In early February, the Ethel K. Smith Library invited students to take a pause, that's P-A-W-S, with the therapy dogs. Therapy Dogs International, Chapter 120, was back on campus, and this time they attracted the attention of a news crew from NBC Charlotte, WCNC TV Channel 36. They did a story about Wingate and the dogs and how they help students with stress relief. It was the director of the library, Amy Odom's idea, and it is working.
When you see students come around the corner in the quad and you see, oh, puppies!
I immediately feel the stress alleviating. These dogs are great and they make me happy because I'm really stressed right now, so this is a nice little break from thinking about school.
One of our favorites is this one, Galleon, a 165-pound Newfoundland that is just adorable. Because it's so unique, the WCNC story was picked up by TV stations from California to Pennsylvania. The story aired in more than 24 media markets by our last count. Very cool. And that's our show for this time. I'm Jeff Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
Comments? Questions? Contact us. Wingate Today is a production of WUTV and Wingate University's Department of Marketing and Communications.